Shalom, Shalom and welcome. Welcome to the White Rose Family Channel. My name is Symmanayah if you're tuning in for the first time. My words, the messages I present are those that I'm compelled to present before an awakening set-apart nation. Those who may be commonly known as Israel or Yisrael, but I refer to as Yashar'al. Yashar'al, individuals drawn by the Almighty Creator to His Word, Yahusha. I'm referencing John 6:44. My brothers and sisters, this series called Bridges and Connections is to address how we have entered into some severe times. We have entered into a season where chaos, civil unrest, wars and fightings, propaganda machines are rearing up in rare form. Storylines and narratives are made up and created and fabricated. A time where confusion is swelling up like a bubble. But it's called end times because we know that the final days of much of this wickedness will come to an end. And ultimately, all of this wickedness will have its place in that eternal flame. For the scriptures say hell alone will be cast into fire and brimstone. How do you feel, O Yashar'al, if you were with your family or by yourself and approaching a cliff, driving at 55 miles per hour, and there are no warning signs, no alarms going off, no bells and whistles, and there are other cars behind you, and all of a sudden you start cascading off a cliff and other cars are lined up to follow afterwards? Wouldn't you have desired some type of alarm? Wouldn't you have desired some type of warning? This segment of Bridges and Connections is to talk about alarms and triggers. Alarms and triggers. So come with me, O Yashar'al, and let us unpack this subject, alarms and triggers. Although I've entitled it Alarms and Triggers, I want you to consider that many warnings are also akin to the word alarms. Make no mistake, Yashar'al, end times are here. And there is much expected among those physically alive pursuing the will of the Almighty Father. We have been entrusted with far more than we realize. It is time to know that as we grow and mature and set apartness, we obtain responsibilities that increase with each passing day. We will be held accountable, even if we attempt to ignore the call. You see, some of us think by just ignoring what is expected, we're in the clear. Untrue. We have entered into a time where we're going to learn our responsibilities, how we are held accountable, and what must be done. Allow me to direct your attention to the questions posed in the following passages. Listen carefully. 1 Corinthians 12, 14, and 15. Let's start there. For indeed the body is not one member but many. If the foot says, and here's the question, if the foot says, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, does it therefore not belong to the body because it says so? No, indeed, it's part of the body, my brothers and sisters. Let's continue. 16 verse through 18 says, and if the ear says, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, does it therefore not belong to the body? If all the body was an eye, where would the hearing be the hearing? If all the hearing, where would be the smelling? But now the Almighty One has set members, each one of them, in the body, even as he pleased. Yashar'al, see, we might say, I'm not a leader, I'm not an influencer, I'm not an eye, I'm not an arm, I'm not part of the body. But if you are drawn by the Almighty Creator, the Almighty Father Yahuah, to his word Yahusha, you will discover we are made one, a body with many members, many functions, but one spirit. In spite of whether we attempt to escape our responsibilities, they are still in existence, O Yashar'al. The time is now to discern and seek to understand what is ordered by the Almighty Yahuah through his spirit, through the spirit of his word, Yahusha. What's ordered? We'll find out in due season. As end times ramp up, so will the discipline of the Almighty Father. My position on alarms is that they are designed to get attention that demands a response. They are designed to get attention that demands a response. Triggers are when the alarms sink in and one acts. Triggers is what make you act, what make you respond to the warning, to the alarm. In other words, actions are taken to avoid the possible disasters approaching or at hand. Yashar'al, Yashar'al. It's time to begin to know what to do and begin doing it for some. I want to present a passage that is often believed to be directed only towards a prophet or someone who is in charge. However, before I present the case, let me share the following, and I will present that case to you, O Yashar'al. Come with me to Acts 17:24. Acts 17 chapter. Verse 24 reads, And Yahuwah who made the world and all that is in it, this one being master of heaven and earth, does not dwell in dwellings made with hands. He dwells in us, O Yashar'al. He gives us life, and life everlasting. He dwells in us. Come with me to 2 Corinthians 6:16. It tells us, And what union has the dwelling place of the Almighty One with idols? For you are a dwelling place of the living Almighty One. As the Almighty One has said, I shall dwell in them and walk among them, and I shall be their Almighty One, and they shall be my people. We will grow to understand clearly our relationship with Abba Yahuah through his word sent in Yahusha's name. By the Spirit of Yahuah dwelling in us, he can therefore use any of his children to take on responsibilities, including presenting alarms. Every alarm has a purpose, and it would be wise, O Yashar'al, it would be wise to discern the triggers regarding how to respond, how to act, what it is we are supposed to do when that alarm is clear to us. Let us visit an example of what is said to a watchman of Yahuah. Come with me to Ezekiel 3rd chapter, verse 17 and 18. Ezekiel 3rd chapter, verse 17 and 18, it reads, Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Yashar'al, and you shall hear a word from my mouth, and you shall warn them from me. And when I say to the wrong, you shall certainly die, and you have not warned them, nor spoken to warn the wrong from his wrong way, to save his life, that same wrong man shall die in his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand. And he goes on to say, But if you have warned the wrong, and he does not turn from his wrong, nor from his wrong way, he shall die in his crookedness, and you have delivered your being. And when a righteous one turns from his righteousness, and shall do unrighteousness, when I have put a stumbling block before him, he shall die. Because you did not warn him, he shall die in his sin, and his righteousness, which he has done, is not remembered, and his blood I require at your hand. You see, my brothers and sisters, you don't have to be a watchman for your eyes to be open to what's happening during these end times and who it is you should warn. Come with me to Ezekiel 3:21-23 says, but if you have warned the righteous one, this is the 21st through the 23rd verse, I'm in the 3rd chapter of Ezekiel, that the righteousness should not sin, and he did not sin, he shall certainly live because he has been warned, and you have delivered your being. And the hand of Yahuah came upon me there, and he said to me, arise, go out into the plain, so that I may speak to you there. So I got up and went out into the plain, and see, the steam of Yahuah stood there, like the steam which I saw by the river Kabar, and I fell on my face. Yashar'al. There's more. The 24th verse says, I'm in the 3rd chapter still of Ezekiel. And the Spirit entered me and set me on my feet and spoke with me and said to me, go and shut yourself inside your house. See, sometimes when the Almighty Father revealed things to us, it's not always all at once. Sometimes he may want us to go into our house, go into that quiet place to hear without distractions or minimum distractions what it is he has for us and what he desires us to warn others about. Going down to the 25th verse through the 27th verse. And you, O son of man, see, they shall put cords on you and bind you with them so that you do not go out in the midst. And I make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth so that you shall be dumb and not be a reprover to them, for they are a rebellious house. But when I speak with you, I open your mouth, and you shall say to them, thus saith the Master Yahuah, he who hears, let him hear, and he who refuses, let him refuse, for they are a rebellious house. Notice how in that 26th verse he say, I make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth so that you be dumb and not be a reprover to them. You see, sometimes the Almighty Father will tell us to shut up, to be quiet, to be silent, to hold our tongue. And then there are times he wants us to speak. All too often people desire to lead or be in leadership positions. It is important to realize that as a member of the set-apart body, many requirements exist before us. We will witness alarms and triggers. Some may present the alarm, and others may be used as triggers on what do we do? How do we respond to this terrible thing that is coming? I'm compelled to believe that if we come into important information, we should always pray to discern what to do with it, especially if the information represents an alarm. Remember, all alarms demand some type of action. Therefore, examine them thoroughly and know that triggers are in close proximity. Are there alarms we're hearing now? Do we know when to act, how to act, with whom, where? Consider these words, O Yashar'al. As things get intense, I want to bring to your attention 1 Thessalonians 5:16-21. 1 Thessalonians 5:16-21 reads, rejoice always, pray without ceasing. In all circumstances give thanks, for this is the desire of the Almighty One and Messiah Yahusha for you. That 17th verse say, pray without ceasing. Going to the 19th, do not quench the spirit. Do not despise prophecies. Prove them all. Hold fast to what is good. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, we will see clearly and know that alarms are going off. Triggers are before us. There are so many times we read the scriptures and think that what is written is enough to remember. Is enough. But remember, Yahusha stated that he will give us everlasting water. That means there is much more to the scriptures than what we just read. It is written, the letter kills, but the spirit makes alive. It is the spirit of Yahuah that enlarges the scriptures, that enlarges the text. that lets us see there's more meaning to what we physically read than meets the eye. 2 Corinthians chapter 3 through 4 through 6 reads this, O Yashar'al. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, 4 through 6 said, "And such trust we have towards the Almighty One through the Messiah. Not that we are competent in ourselves to reckon any matter as from ourselves, but our competence is from the Almighty One, who has made us competent as servants of a renewed covenant. Not of the letter, but of the Spirit, for the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. It is the Spirit of Yahuah that improves our comprehension and understanding, our ability to speak, to teach, to warn, to direct, to instruct. End times are here, my brother, my sister. We will each begin to experience a sense of urgency regarding what must be done. Many are circulating questions and are eager to discover what is expected, when, with whom, and how. Are you among these numbers? Are you receiving a stirring within your spirit to seek out the definition of the alarms, the triggers, what must be done? Let me direct your attention to why it is important to be mindful of alarms and triggers. You see, it is my position that the days will come where it will be too late for many. Days such as the following. You see, this occurred in Amos back in the day. But we will read the scriptures, in the scriptures, that Yahuah does not change. Similar things that happened in days of old will occur again. And I believe, for one, that in these last days, what Amos is speaking of in the 8th chapter, verse 11 and 12, will happen again. It says, "See, the days are coming, declares Master Yahuah, that I shall send a hunger in the land, not a hunger of bread, nor a thirst for water, but for hearing the words of Yahuah. And they shall wander from sea to sea, from north to east, and they shall diligently search, seeking the word of Yahuah, but they shall not find it." You see, my brothers and sisters, there are scriptures that tell us about those who will be made dumb, those who will be blinded. You see, because they are those that often wants to seek the word for Yahuah for self-gain. Let us learn how to respond before it's too late, my brothers and sisters. Trust and believe the Almighty Father Yahuah has and will send watchmen before us. There will be others as well, entrusted with information to present alarms, complete with details, triggers, and directions regarding what must be done. Among us, O Yashar'al, there are those who are fabricating a narrative, a storyline, and saying the Most High Father told them, and they are lying. We must learn how to vet and identify the liars, the wicked, the deceived versus the obedient ones. The days of just glazing at scriptures without discerning the voice of the Spirit of Yahuah, who comes in his word, Yahusha's name, the days of just glazing over those scriptures are fading. Rise up, my brothers and sisters, and identify the many alarms and triggers emerging before our very eyes, lest we find ourselves in a regrettable position. Alarms and triggers. Look around you. Have the discussions. What's an alarm? Have the discussion. What could the possible triggers be? And when do we act? With whom? Where do we go? How do we govern ourselves? Have those discussions and seek out the living answers from Abba Yahuah. That's it for now, my brothers and sisters. But don't take these words for granted. Alarms and triggers are for a purpose, for a reason. And it is in the triggers that we will discover detailed actions and processes to carry us to where we are supposed to be. On that note, I say to you, my brother, my sister, my family, be encouraged. There's work to be done. There's much to learn. And out of the discipline promised by Abba Yahuah, we will witness success as it relates to what we must do as a set-apart nation, awaiting the physical return of Yahusha Mashiach. Come, my brother, my sister, my family. Let us recognize what must be done. On that note, Shalum. Shalom to you, my brother, my sister, my family.